Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thoughtful Thursdays with Vanessa. I am Vanessa Parra-Moreno, social media coach from Monterey County, and I help coaches, consultants, salespeople, and content creators new to video attract ideal clients on their social media platforms. So welcome. Today, I'm really excited because my show is a little bit different. I am interviewing Roshi Pejhan from Kollaborativ Consulting. Welcome, Roshi. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here. So for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background, about your business, who you serve, and what made you decide to start a consulting agency?
Sure. So I have been a marketing consultant since 2009. So it's been over 10 years now, hard to believe. I started more with general marketing, but very quickly I specialize in social and digital media marketing. Of course, I started sort of right when that was really booming from a commerce and business perspective. So it all sort of, the planets aligned. And I have a multidisciplinary background. I have years in communications and hospitality, even journalism and business administration. And I just felt like, our standard traditional 9 to 5 never felt right for me. I just never felt fulfilled. It felt constraining. And so consulting just seemed like a natural step for me. I did it when most people would think it was insane to do it, which is right after the 2008 financial crash. However, all the smart companies then realized that you need to invest in marketing to survive, whereas a lot of other people would take marketing money out of their budget. So it was good for me. And I love the work I do. So I service small businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. I have in the past worked with, everybody basically, international corporations, nonprofits, who I do love working with. I love working with social impact clients, but I have found my niche very much to be small business owners because who are small to moderate size. They seem to be sort of left out a lot, I noticed. It's like either you have an agency or you have to hire somebody, and they, from my experience, really need the help and support. So I love helping entrepreneurs get started and then supporting businesses who are already up and running.
Great. So I know you had mentioned that you started your job during the recession. So what advice do you give those out there that maybe want to start a job right now during the pandemic, which is, somewhat similar?
Yeah, I actually think so. Now is actually a great time to start a business. You have literally nothing to lose. I feel like that's the thing. The opportunity cost is the lowest now in a sense. Although I know that there are a lot of places hiring, but if you have a passion for something, I believe that anybody can succeed if they have a passion and in what they do. And sometimes you just need help with the steps and the best practices and the actions, and that's what someone like me is here for. But I would recommend go for it. Don't be afraid. Fear is the number one thing. I feel fear all the time. I felt it. Now I'm more established, but when you start, it's scary, right? Obviously, I can't be flippant about it if somebody has a family to support, but don't underestimate the side hustle and how it can grow. As long as you're dedicated to it and you're doing it from the heart. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's actually very powerful approach. Then you can succeed regardless of whatever you think is happening around you in the world.
Yeah. Okay. So what are the 3 biggest misconceptions that you see out there that businesses are doing when it comes to investing in social media or maybe outsourcing their social media?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I'm going to give kind of a weird answer. So I would say the first thing is their misconception is that I can't do it. Like I can't do it myself. I need someone. But the second misconception is that I can do it all by myself. So those things seem contradictory, but I'll walk you through it. So the I can't do it people are, and I deal a lot with these kinds of clients, the technophobes. Or sometimes it's just a capacity issue of like they have too much going on with operations. And the feeling that, though more often I have to say it's the technophobia, because if somebody feels like they're empowered with a grasp of how something works, They're not as scared of it. And so a large part of the way I work with clients is a lot of people in our field in marketing, they almost want to make the client dependent on them. But I really like to empower the client so that if they may never need me again, if they could still operate, the way they want. And so that sense of I can't do it, you can learn if you can commit to learning the basics that are right for you. And that's a very specific point, because people think they have to learn everything there is to know about marketing. You don't. You just have to understand, your audience, what works in your industry, the benchmarks of your industry, and what specifically works for you and your brand. You can learn some of the basics, then you're good to go. And someone like me, now I do trainings. So whether or not you're a long-term client, I can just train people as well. And so that's very powerful. And I love seeing people's face light up after they just have always struggled with, how things work in social media, and them feeling empowered. So the second thing is that I can do it. I can just do it myself. I don't need an expert. And I would caution against that. So even if you've trained and you've learned, having additional expertise is always vital. So when you think about what you're spending on marketing, you want to think about not only what your ad spend is, but what your, what your commitment to someone else, whether it's a part-time hire that you have or a consultant like me, you want to have that higher level expertise. And I would caution against just getting like some part-time intern and assuming, well, they're young, so they know everything. Mm-hmm. They might know more than you about how things function, but strategy is very different. So bringing in someone like me 1 or 2 hours a month is invaluable, because you have strategy and you have execution. And you need maybe somebody in-house for execution, though someone like me can do that as well. So the third thing is regarding spending, you don't need to spend a lot of money. That's a huge misconception. And, it makes sense. It comes from, our understanding of old traditional media and how much like a radio ad costs, and billboards are so expensive. But the power of social media is very, very strong. And, I tell my clients, you can get a lot of return potentially just from like a $5 boost on Facebook, or, $10 ad on Instagram. Your content matters, but the ad spend doesn't have to be scary. So even if you're starting as a small business owner or a solo entrepreneur, like $50 a month, I mean, that's like 5 visits to Chipotle. Like that's not, you can cut that out and put it towards ad spend.
Probably spend more on Starbucks.
Yeah, I was going to do it in Starbucks, but then I was like, that's too much math. But Chipotle is usually around $10. So, yeah. But you just make those, it's not like, oh God, I don't have $500 to spend. And, someone like me doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. So it's the advantage of consultants like us is we have the expertise, but we don't have that bloated agency pricing. Exactly. Agencies have a lot of overhead. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have more expertise. So you just have to find the right fit of somebody like me. Yeah. And if I could just give a tip, I think it's really important for people to really vet who they're hiring. And I know that you may not know exactly what they know, but it's more important to learn how they work and how you'll work together. It's a cultural thing. It's like a work thing, how we work. Like it's very different when I have a client who's just trusts me and is like, let's go. Or I have a client who needs a little bit of help, and that's fine. Or versus somebody who might know they want to micromanage, but I don't go in with that expectation. So you want to manage expectations if you're bringing someone like us into the fold. And the final thing I'll say on that is there's a lot of those companies that are like, hey, we're cheap $500 a month and we'll just do everything for you and we'll do ads for you online and you don't have to pay anything. You don't have to talk to us. And these kinds of people, I've had clients go with those people and it's always a disaster. I don't want to throw up people in our own industry under the bus, but because they're cookie cutter and they are just basically a marketing factory. So you're not getting the personalization. And it's not just a matter of, oh, you get personal service from a consultant like us. It's a matter of personalized understanding of your market and your product and your client. Yes. So that's, a benefit. It's worth spending money on. The return is clear.
Yeah. No, I agree. I believe business owners should educate themselves when it comes to social media and marketing, because even if they do have the budget to outsource it, like you mentioned, or work with an agency, it's very important to understand what they're doing, because what if you're
Exactly.
spending all this money but you have no clue what they're
Right.
actually doing and
Right.
using your money for? And it's also no one else but yourself, but the business owner understands and knows what their ideal client wants or their
Exactly.
target audience wants. So as a business owner, it's your responsibility to educate yourself and really understand your ideal client. That way, when you do work with a consultant or an agency or whoever you hire, like you mentioned before, your expectations are met and people understand each other and are able to help you in a more effective way.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can never have too much education. And I understand that small business owners feel overwhelmed. But again, that point of like, you don't need to know everything about marketing. You're not getting your MA in it. You just need to know what you need to know. And that's why bringing in a trainer or coach like you or me is so vital to that. So one more thing I want to add for when business owners and entrepreneurs are vetting who they're going to work with, someone like us, or either someone like us or an agency or something. If that person doesn't say anything to you about reporting, like if they're not reporting back to you monthly and giving you charts and feedback and all of that, or anticipating doing that, then go run the other direction, because something's very wrong. You have to, even if you hate numbers, look at analytics. So you want to look at your site analytics, you want to look at your social media insights, and people don't realize the wealth of information in there. And the thing that's astounding is you will discover things that are super like counterintuitive to what you thought about your clients. So seeing that online behavior and conversion behavior is really powerful, and is actually, in my opinion, is really the ends, and the means is like the ads. I want to see that data and how they're acting. So if not a better way to say it, to manipulate them the way I want to, to purchase stuff for the client. So that's a really important part of vetting whoever you use.
Okay, perfect. So can you provide us with maybe like 3 tips that business owners can do right now to improve their social media strategy? I know it's very broad, but I don't know.
Yeah. No. There's a lot. We could probably do a 3-hour course on that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. Number one is understanding who your audience is, and this is sort of a step back from social media, right? Regardless of whether you're on social media or not.
Mm-hmm.
But you would be shocked at how many businesses and even entrepreneurs don't have clarity on who their client is, ideal client. And there's something called a client avatar, so you want to sit down and create, list out every quality, and from demographic to values to things they're interested in, of who you think your ideal client is. And maybe you have a couple, because maybe you have like a wholesale business and then you have a retail business, so it's going to be different. But it's a very it can be a painful process, I'm not going to lie, because you have to think about it, and it's not like every single client you have is going to fit in there. But
Mm-hmm.
this is who you're solving the problem for. Who are you there to serve? And when you have clarity on that, everything else really falls in line, because one of the biggest parts of social media marketing is who you're targeting to. So you have to have that template before even when you go on Facebook or Pinterest or whatever, who am I targeting to, and what groupings can I put those demographics in? So that's my number one thing. And where are they? What are they interested in? Not just, women in their 30s in California. Be a little bit more specific. So that's my number one tip. And then, and one thing I would say right now is invest in the time and energy in Instagram and Pinterest. So these are a little bit different, and people might think they're all the same, but in terms of Pinterest, what a lot of people don't realize is it's actually a search engine. It is a socialized search engine, but it's just a really powerful search engine up to the level of Google and YouTube. And people don't realize that. And it can seem tedious to, post pictures and all this stuff, but it's not frivolous. Those pictures link, and they can link to your site, and they can link to products. Not even if you're not using the e-commerce side of Pinterest, where you can, it shows you prices and you can click to buy. You could just literally link it to a product page without having to go through all that rigmarole. And so it's very powerful. And I see it consistently in the analytics of clients, that when you can see the referrals to a website, even when they're not doing anything, but they have an old Pinterest account, it's feeding. So imagine if you put a little bit of energy into it. So that's a tip. And then with Instagram, Instagram's just very hot right now. And I know it's been hot for a while, but I think there's a public tedium growing about Facebook. And I'm not saying that they're, losing users or anything, because right now they're not. And there's still a lot of advertisers on there. But I really believe Instagram is the future. And they've recently added, your followers may or may not know, there's Instagram stories, which was co-opting Snapchat's old function, or I just say old because Snapchat is still around, but Snapchat's functionalities. And really it took off and stole a lot of people from Snapchat. So now they've launched Reels, which is a take on how TikTok works. And everyone knows how popular TikTok works, but with all of the ownership issues about China and the Trump administration shutting it down, and there's a lot of that. So Instagram jumped in and took that opportunity. Reels hasn't become overly commercialized yet, but it's just a matter of time. And, you can create some really cool content on there, even if you're not spending money through your account. Even if you don't throw money at the Reels, work on creating the content. And so spend time on Instagram. It's like a whole universe within Instagram itself, because you have posts, which you can boost. You can do ads in the back end that go out as posts. You can do stories, and if you're big enough, you can do promoted stories too, with links. You can do promoted stories regardless. And now you have Reels. So you could literally do nothing but Instagram. And there are people in our industry who do specifically just Instagram consulting, and there's courses and things like that. So spend the time and focus on that. I really think it's worth it. So that's my second tip. And then my third tip I actually already mentioned to people, which is check your analytics. That's really vital. Your ROI, your return on investment, is never clear until you could see, and again, not just Google Analytics, but every ad you have has analytics. It shows you how well you do. There's often too much information. People don't know how to process it, but I'll tell you, you want to look at, how many unique people you're reaching, how many people are clicking or converting. If you have like a sign up for something, that's a conversion, or a sale, it's a conversion. You want to look at the percentage of efficacy of that conversion versus reach. And people get confused here, but it's actually very powerful, because if you're only spending like $5, and one ad you've ran has like a 5, which is unheard of, but 5% CTR conversion rate, and another one has 1%, but the numbers look like the other one's better, it does happen. It's kind of weird, but it happens. People don't realize you want to look at percentage of efficacy, because that's where you want to put your money in general. And then you also want to look at your cost per click. So there's a ton of other information, but those things are really the most important to look at and to track when you're doing your ads. So that's really my top thing. And then, just as like an overall general tip is be authentic. And it sounds kind of, woo-wee, but it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Like businesses get so concerned about looking the right way, or sounding professional, or sounding like I have to say it, my voice has to be third person, and sometimes that's appropriate, if you're like a law firm or something, that might be appropriate. But more often than not, people respond to other people. So don't be afraid, if you're an entrepreneur especially, or even a small business owner, use the first person voice. Be authentic about the experience. Don't be afraid to have fun. And whatever you're posting, have a sense of humor. I think the more you can let who's behind the camera shine through, the more you're going to see return. It's just this like vibe that people get. They respond to the authenticity.
No, I agree. Again, we're coming from a working for a big corporation and different businesses. I completely saw firsthand how a lot of companies, they want like the best curated photos and captions and videos, which is fine, again, depending on what you're trying to promote. But sometimes it's okay to just show, a quick story or photo of what you're doing behind the scenes or with your team. And it really depends on the platform and what you're trying to do, because like For example, if a lawyer is trying to promote their personal brand on Instagram, then it'd be okay, you know, to show what he does on the weekends when he has time off. You know, maybe he's golfing with his buddies or has a barbecue with his family or different things like that. And that's something very important. And that's actually something that I teach in my coaching program, is building a personal brand with video, because it's very important to put yourself out there. I know it could be a little intimidating and you're worried about what other people think, but I saw a quote somewhere, I don't know who said it, but pretty much people are judging you already. It doesn't matter what kind of content you're putting out there. They're still judging you regardless. So you might as well create content that's fun. It's called social media, so be social. That attracts your ideal client, and that way you stand out from the competition as well, because I'm sure a lot of people might not be doing a lot of the things that you may be doing to grow your personal brand, especially through videos. So
and that's actually a good point, that last point, because that people don't realize, like, that's what sets you apart from your competitors, is who you are. For better or worse, it's who you are. And we lean into the humanity of everything, just like you're saying. What you're really doing is, like, you're showing your humanity and who you are as a person. And you know, and I just want to say that also tips into, like, transparency, because people respond to brands and social media activity where, like, if you mess up, be honest about it, and be like, go on a video and be like, hey guys, you know, I'm so sorry, like, we ran out of this product. You know, don't try to hide it and like the thing is, people don't or companies necessarily don't realize, the social media audiences have become so much more savvy in the past 10 years. Like, we can smell the BS, and, you know, as consumers. And so there's even more incentive to just be yourself and be transparent with your customers. Treat them like human beings, you know?
Yeah, especially right now, I think the number one way to grow your business and your personal brand is through social proof. So if people are creating videos or posts or stories where they're talking about your brand or your services, and they're giving you great, you know, reviews, then it'll cause someone else who may be on the fence of buying your product or your service, if they see something positive and maybe that person seems like similar to them, they might be more inclined to purchase that product or that services. But it can also go the other way, where if someone leaves a very negative review, it can also cause someone to be like, I don't know, maybe I don't want to work with that person, you know? So that's why I agree. You need to be honest and transparent, and it's okay. You're not going to be for everyone, you know? You might repel some people, but it's okay, because that's even better, because that way you're attracting your tribe, the people that you want to serve and that you actually care about and want to work with.
Absolutely. No, really, really good point. It's like, if you're repelling people, like you say, that's great, because that's not necessarily the people you want to work with. The more authentic you are, the more you're honing in on who it is you want to serve. So there's just so many benefits to that.
Okay. Well, pretty much that's it. Is there anything else you would like to share? And then also, can you let everyone know if they would like to reach out to you and maybe get some more information about your company and your services, how they can reach out to you?
Yeah. Well, this has been super fun. I think we've covered most things. I urge people to check out my website. It's collaborativeconsult.com. And that's, so Kollaborativ is with a K and no E at the end, just to keep it fresh. So I'm sure you could, like, throw it up or something when you post. So, and I, you know, like I said, I serve a variety of clients. I work with nonprofits as well. My key, regardless of who I work with and what I do for them, is empowerment. So whether it's training you to feel like you don't ever need me anymore, or just training your staff so that they can work with me and I can do high level things and they can do the execution. There's all kinds of different ways to structure it. And I do have a product that I call K sessions, which is basically like, you have me on retainer for a few hours a month. And if you don't use that month, it rolls over. But it's basically like, you know, we could chat on like this, we could work on something specific, but you have me for dedicated hours. And sometimes business owners just need to go, hey, what do I do for this? If you need fresh ideas, you need to know why something's not working, you need tips, I'm here for that. And K sessions is a nice, inexpensive way to just budget that money out for yourself. So I would love to talk to anybody out there and see what their needs are. And please visit me. I'm also on Facebook and on Twitter. So they can find me at Kollaborativ on Twitter.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and
well,
thanks
thank you,
so much for
Roshi.
having me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for joining us. And I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. I'll be linking Roshi's information to this post. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know and tag us in a comment. That'd be great. Okay. Well, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.